Hi everyone, Tracy Lewis with We Are Winter Garden, and I am here with two fine gentlemen, Pastor Scott, who is the founder of Matthew's Hope, and Matthew's Hope guest, Gary, who is in the Moving Forward program. Today we're going to be digging into Gary's story, but before we do that, we are in a different location today. Can you tell everybody where we're at?
Yeah, we're actually in our new location in Brevard. We're actually in the sanctuary, which for us, we're not a church, though we are a ministry. So this is a venue for us, and we thought it'd be nice to show some a little bit what we're doing over here.
And the space you can rent out, or people can rent out, right?
The beauty of it is, it's got great acoustics. The beauty of it is we can do concerts in here, we can do convention type stuff in here, we can do weddings and what have you. We have the ability to seat 400 in here. Over in the outreach center, we can do 225 with tables, and 250 300 without, and we also have a small chapel here that seats about 100.
Awesome.
So it's pretty cool.
Cool. So I'd like to get into Gary's story because we're here with the podcast to educate people.
Yeah.
And this is the real faces of homelessness. And if I were to look at Gary, I would not think that he was homeless. And people have a lot of stereotypics. So let's kind of dive into that. Gary, what circumstances brought you to homelessness?
First, I'd like to thank my Lord Jesus Christ and also Matthew's Hope for bringing me here. And I want to say that, homelessness has no bias. It has no prejudice whatsoever. I mean, I've been at the top of the echelon, so to speak. At one time, I was an executive in a real estate company, executive in food chains and that sort of thing. But one bad decision got me to where I am. I've never had a addiction problem of any sort whatsoever, but I was an enabler, and that's what got me to where I am right now.
Had you ever imagined yourself being homeless?
I don't think anybody imagines himself being homeless.
Right, yeah. And how did you discover Matthew's Hope?
I'm going to tell you what. I was at a Wawa one day.
Okay.
Two ladies walked up to me with a purple and white van, okay? I was dressed to the nines, and I was just trying to get me some breakfast, and I was with my ex, okay? They happened to start talking to me, and I'm not a crier until I came to Matthew's Hope anyway. But, I think sometimes God told me, when you walk through that door, cry me a river. But they started talking to me about what I wanted to be, what I had dreamed of being, before I hit that bottom line. And it made sense to me. And they told me, this was a Friday. They told me, come see me on Tuesday when we have our outreach program. And I tried to talk my ex into doing that with me. And I, over the weekend, thought about it. And I said, I'm going to go see these people. I guess God was leading me then. And once I came to see them, it was a blessing. I can't tell you what a blessing it was, because ever since I walked through that door, this gentleman right here and my advocates have been exceptional at helping me climb that ladder.
And how long ago was that?
I'd say about 3.5 months ago, Scott.
All
Something about
right,
3.5 months ago. It took me 3 weeks to pretty much establish myself here, and they saw the work ethic that I had. And a lot of people come here and they put down on their application, hey, I want a bicycle, I want a tent, I want something. My answer was, I want a stable living environment. That's what I wanted. And that's where I'm at right now. That's where they've led me to be right now.
That's great. And what challenges have you come across through the Moving Forward program?
I'm not going to lie to you. When I first came here, like I said, I didn't have an addiction problem, but I loved to smoke pot. Okay, that was a challenge in itself when they told me that you cannot do this anymore, okay? Also, in the living situation, there's a lot of things that you can't do anymore, like have guests come over. You can't have a relationship. What we want you to do is focus on you, headstrong you. That's what they want me to do, and that's what I've done. And I'm going to tell you what, that was the biggest challenge, me learning how to love myself.
Yeah. And they helped you to do that?
Every day somebody tells me, what a great job you're doing, Gary. We love you, Gary. We appreciate what you're doing, Gary. you know how long it's been and how great those words can be
You're
at
giving me
any
goosebumps.
given time.
Yeah. Scott, do you remember when you met him? And what was that like?
Yeah, it's interesting because the one thing, we've talked about this, I think, in previous episodes where you often were trying to work with a couple in that, and Gary had to make a really tough decision. It's not that he didn't love his wife, but he realized also, and not that he didn't want better for her, but he realized, he came to that place where he understood that he couldn't want her to be better more than she wanted her to be better. And he made the decision, which is a tough one, and many people can't make. Most of them kind of stay in that hole and just keep going down deeper into it. And he made that decision to show up. But I think the next thing I would say is that in Gary, we saw someone very quickly that this guy should not be homeless. That doesn't always happen. I mean, in my opinion, nobody should be homeless.
Sure.
But the other side of it is there's people that are more built for the street and what have you than others. And it wasn't that he couldn't handle himself on the street. It was like, no, this man, he talks in full sentences. He can think for himself. He's polite. We saw his work ethic. And he was, because of that, we went a little further on the limb. We don't have our housing in place yet in Brevard, but we made the commitment to rent a condo.
So is he like the first guest
he is the
for
very
housing
first
here
person.
in Brevard? Okay.
Yeah. And he'll eventually have a roommate, but that hasn't happened yet because until somebody shows us that they're the next person and that they're going to come in there and be supportive with Gary and what he's trying to accomplish in his life, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So he's a hard worker. I mean, I see some, he's not a kid. He knows that. I know that. Some days I think he feels that and doesn't say much. But at the same time, rather than complain, which a lot of people do, he kind of licks his wounds and gets back up and says, "What do we got to do next?" So I think that I think that's going to, his past success will be something also that he can use to work for his future success.
Yeah.
He's been there. He's done it.
Gary, how do you describe the Moving Forward program, especially like when you first started?
When I first started, I'm going to be honest with you, it's a very complicated program. I felt like it was instituted for people that had drug problems, addiction problems, alcohol problems, and I had a difficult time trying to buy into the situation. But this gentleman right here explains things to you. He doesn't bite his tongue about things to you. He actually gave me a second chance within the first 30 minutes that I met him. He could have said, "Yo, out the door you go, buddy." But he gave me that chance. And in return, I felt like, hey, I've got to make that next step up, okay? And next time I see him, I got to make that next step up, And I bought into the program. And now I told him today, you're going to get sick of me, but, and that's just the way it goes because it's not like I've got to prove something to him.
Sure.
I had to prove something to myself.
I like that. What expectations did they have for you? Was there like rules or?
The rules are in everything you do.
Sure.
There's rules and regulations in everything you do. Everything that I've ever rose to the top of. There's somebody that's a little bit higher, and you got to follow those rules and regulations, And you either buy into it or you don't. Like a coach says on the football team.
Yeah.
My team's buying into it, and that's why we're winning. So I'm buying into it, and that's why I'm winning right now.
That's great. So let's talk a little bit about funding.
Yeah.
Because that's important. Do you get any type of government funding for all of the services that you guys provide?
For the last 14 years, we've been self-funded through the support of the community. And that's where the bulk of that comes from. About 65% of our funding comes from individuals just like you and I that have, they've made it a part of their giving. Matthew's Hope is on that list. And though I will tell you, it's a lot tougher than it used to be prior to the pandemic.
Yeah.
That said, I think that when people can see people being successful, people putting out the work. I mean, bottom line is we can put up the guidelines and we can develop a path, if you will, for Gary to follow. The bottom line is Gary's got to be the one that follows it.
Right.
You know, and if he's feeling a little off and he's willing to talk to us about it, you know, and we can try to right it before he falls off. You know, that's who we are, you know, and by the grace of God, we've been able to pull that off. I will tell you that, you know, one of the reasons we started the podcast was to bring awareness to homelessness and what it really looks like. One, to get away from some of the misinformation that's out there. But the others is the truth is that we're fighting for our lives every day financially. You know, I think people see us, you know, right now we're in the middle of expanding our medical and mental health office in our Orange County offices. And they see that, and I think they just assume that we're just coming up with money here and there, or that we have money. And the truth is, we have faith, and we're stepping out in faith. We're trusting that as we move forward with these things, that God is going to come through His people. You know, I'm not one that believes that not that He couldn't, but I don't think God's going to show up here one day with a bag full of gold for me. However, what I do think He will do is move in the hearts of the people around us and inspire them to want to come alongside of us as community partners, whether they're a business or what have you, and make the stories like Gary's. You know, this is just the beginning of his story. Yeah. But I felt it was enough had happened that it was worth inviting him in on the podcast and just share a little bit about it.
And I appreciate you being here. What do you say to people who are like, they say all these comments, whether it be, hey, they made their choice, or why are you putting so much time in it? What do you say to those people?
My first thought, I may not say it, was, why has God put up with you this long? And it's called His grace. And for some reason, even in the Christian community, we do not offer much grace because we somehow fail to understand how much grace has been given to us. And I think that's part of what our ministry is about. It's about grace. It's about humility. It's about building one another up, which we're called to in God's Word, to build one another up. You know, we're trying to. You know, I laugh because there's times that people have said to me, "Well, Scott, you know, you're so progressive in what you're doing here," and no, what we're really doing is we're using a handbook that was given to us a few thousand years ago. And we're actually just using it as opposed to, you know, trying to think that we can come up with a better way. I don't think I have one original idea. I think the original idea, if there was one, was, hey, how about we follow this? Yeah. You know, and you know, Lord tells us to help those that cannot help themselves. But also, and everybody can fight me on this, I can show you where basically it says you work, you eat. And so that's where we come in, is we're going to give you that opportunity to help yourself. Okay? I mean, you know, I could easily go out and hire some people to do what Gary and some of the other guys are doing around here on the property. I could do that. But wouldn't it make more sense to allow them to have the dignity of participating in their own recovery in life and be a part of that? And that inspires then us, our staff and volunteers, to go ahead. They see Gary and they see his smile and his thankfulness, and they want to get up another day. Definitely. So it feeds both ways. It really does. He brings as much to us as we bring to him, whether he knows that or not.
I can tell. Gary, what's your goals for yourself through this program, and what's the future look like for you?
I want to say that there's nothing that's given to me here. I want you to understand that we work hard for everything we do. And one of our understandings here is that we know that people's contributions here are important to us, and so we're going to give them as much as we can. Okay, I'm on an 18-month program. Okay, and what I'd like to do in the end, and they've got some dreams and expectations of me that they'd like me to walk into, so to speak, you know. But more than anything, I don't want to be homeless again. I want to understand what it means to stand on my own 2 feet, not enable anybody else, and basically just love myself. To love myself means I'm loving Jesus Christ.
Definitely, definitely. So we talked a little bit about funding and how you have donors and all of that stuff. We had a huge fundraiser over in Orange County, and we have another one coming up. Or I say we, like I'm doing it. I'm attending. But October 18th.
Yeah, it's
acoustic sunset. Can we talk
we're
about
looking
that
forward
in
to doing that event with David Dorman of Century 20, professional 20, I got to think about how to say it. Sorry, David. I got to think how he says that.
David Dorman, Realty 21.
Realty 21, yes.
Yeah.
And but David came to us a couple years ago after working with another nonprofit that really wasn't kind of participating in helping them get the thing done. So he came to us and asked us about getting involved, and we had a very successful time last year. We got great music out there. There's going to be games, a silent auction. A lot of stuff is going on. The beauty of it is it's free to the community.
Fun family event.
Great family event, and at the same time, one of the coolest things is you have a 1 in 100 chance of winning a cruise for $100. That's pretty good odds.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
it's about as good odds as you're going to get for anything.
Yeah.
But it allows us, all that money that's raised is going to come to us. I think last year they raised something like $25,000.
Nice.
And, when you have budgets now that are in the millions, every penny counts.
Right.
So,
Gary, what would you say to anybody who's watching, who's maybe considering donating or volunteering or be a part of this ministry? What would you say to them if they were sitting in front of you now?
We appreciate what you're doing, and as I said in the beginning, homelessness has no bias, it has no prejudice, it has no age limit. I'll be 68 years old tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, and we appreciate everything you're doing, and we're going to give you the best that we can for your community, as well as the people that you have on the streets.
I hear that. It's a community, all of us.
Yes, that's
It's
very
a community
it
thing.
takes all of us.
Yeah, definitely. Just like raising a child, it takes a village. It takes a village to create a strong, stable, supportive community.
And that's very true. I feel like, how we used to say as young children, at least when I was young anyway, I'm a little bit older than y'all.
You
But,
don't look it at all. You look amazing.
It does take a village,
Yeah.
and we kind of got away from that a little bit, But now I think something that Scott's bringing back, and I hear in his speeches and things like that, is that it's going to take all of us to get these people off the street.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we've talked before in other episodes, it could be any of us.
And it can happen quick.
One
Yeah.
bad decision.
Yeah.
That's all it is. One bad decision.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. We so appreciate you. I know that it can be kind of crazy on here in this podcast, but we're doing great, and you did great. Thank you for opening up to us. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode where we talk about buying into the lie. So I'm excited to learn more about that because I'm not sure what that means, but we're going to learn together. So we'll see you next time. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.